Hey guys, how's it going? So we're gonna do a walk around video of my car today, and I'm just gonna point out all the flaws and stuff. And this video can also be to anybody that's looking to buy a G-body or anything like that, and you want to know, it's like it's your first time, you want to know where all the flaws and stuff are, or like all the bad spots to look. This will be that type of video. Yeah, so this is my 1987 Monte Carlo SS. Not too much of a high mileage car. It's got 96,000 clicks on it, but I'll just show you something. One of the areas you need to check here on these. Okay, so you always want to check like your these drip rails here and stuff like that. So we can we see that there has been work done to this car. It may have had a possible quarter panel put on it. I didn't pull out the jack here to check, but or maybe a skin or something, I don't know. But there has been some work done here. They usually get a lot of rust in this area, unfortunately. It's been also like tack welded up here a bit, so we know there's been some work done to this thing. It had a body job like 20 plus years ago. That's what the gentleman told me that I bought it from. So while we're in the trunk here, the other area to check is if the car has a mat in it, you want to pull the mat back and check right underneath. One second here. Okay, so yeah, you want to check all this area in here. Usually they rust. What will happen is this here will rot out. It'll go right through, and then the water will just seep right into the trunk, unfortunately. And usually in most cases with these cars, I apologize about the background noise living in the city, but what do you do? But yeah, so anyways, this will be like this area here will always be rotted out if it's leaking in here. So that's one thing you gotta keep in mind too. Or it could rot out some other way. Maybe the person was driving it in the winter time, who knows. But this car is really in pretty good shape though. I've had this whole thing out there, and it's this is probably the most solid trunk pan I've ever seen for an Ontario, Canada car. I had well, other than my 86 SS that came from South Carolina, but yeah, pretty solid in here. Pretty rare to find in Ontario, Canada. This car really never seen any winter. I believe it was just like a summer car or something like that. But yeah, so we're in like a pretty good shape in here. Like I said, just check all these areas in here. Make sure you do a good scan, even if you have to like pull the tire out and check all in there and stuff. Up there too, you could get rust in there, so yeah. And also check the so if you can see this, not all the seams up here. Make sure you check them. Usually there's a lot of rot around these things. All up in here too. Like I said, this car is in pretty good shape, so yeah, they usually, sometimes they'll rot. This whole panel here will rot out. I've seen a lot of that in Ontario cars. Again, you can see right here too, it's starting to kind of rust, and it looks like it may have separated at one point, so they just tried to welded it up. Just did like a quick patch or something on it like that, so. But again, yeah, those are classic areas on these cars down here. Right up in this area too, where all the water comes down the window here and just runs down this area. So. Also, what you want to do is try and keep these channels all cleaned out. They'll get jammed up with leaves in here, and that'll even cause moisture and rust and cause things to rot out too. So always make sure you keep that area cleaned out. So another interesting thing too, so this car is an 87. So you would assume 87, 88s, they had the flat style spoilers, but this car was actually a really early 87. So just when they were switching over from the 86 to 87, this car still had a stand-up style rear spoiler, I should say. They had the more of the angle on them there. So later 88s, or sorry, 87s and 88s had a like a lay down style spoiler on them. There was the odd rare occasion you still had the stand-up style on an 87. Okay guys, so other areas you can check too. Make sure you check this whole quarter panel lip here. You always get rust. Like this car has some rust right here too, but sometimes this lip going on the inside will be rusted out, either rusted off or just like it'll be like peeling or something like that. What you can do is take like a fridge magnet sometimes and just kind of run them along here. You can check for Bondo that way. Take one of these with you. If you're buying a car, obviously ask the person for permission to do it first. But yeah. And even so, I don't got the wheel off, but there's like this inner wheel housing. Sometimes they'll be rotted too in there. And you always want to check the rear frame rails in these cars. These cars are classic for the frames just rotting right out of them. Right out of them, I should say. On both sides. Pretty bad for that, but this car is pretty solid underneath. If you guys go back to my oil change video, you can kind of get a glimpse of the undercarriage. Hopefully I can do I'll do a better video on that eventually. This car's been pretty well undercoated its entire life, I believe. That's the impression I get from looking at the underside of this thing. They looked after the car that way at least. But yeah, other areas too are these panels right here. Sometimes they'll be rusted out. Usually the rockers will be totally gone on these cars, mostly. Also too guys, check all the seams running down here. There's a little bit of rust in here, but it's just I gotta get some oil on that actually. But yeah, sometimes these will be all rusted out coming down into here, then going right across the bottom. You always want to check that out. Like this one's not really too bad. But yeah, just make sure you keep an eye on this stuff here. Always the lower, sometimes on these cars there'll be all the lower portion of the door will be rotted out too, or it'll have some kind of a rust on the lower portion anyway. We'll just go on the other side there. Okay, so the other thing is on these cars, for some reason, everyone, well not everyone I've seen, but some of them, these door strikers, the metal in behind has been either cracked, broken, or it's severely rusted in this area. That's another thing you want to check. And another thing you can do is if you bring a flashlight with you, if you happen to be looking at one of these cars, just pop this screen here off. And you can actually look in the quarter panel there, the rear quarter I should say. And you could possibly see Bondo, if there's been Bondo added to this car. You could see it coming through in the rear quarters. So you could check in there too for Bondo if you had to. And again, like I said before, classic area where these things rust out is right in this neck of the woods right here. They do it all the time. Right in here, and then it'll, depending on what type of car you got, it'll transfer up over into this area, then down your floor pan and stuff like that. But a lot of that is dependent on the weather stripping. If the car hasn't had good weather stripping either, like they'll always be deteriorated right up in this area here. Sometimes going up in here, but usually this part up here it'll be okay. But it's just the area that's exposed to the sun and stuff, right? So in here too is another area to check. There's always problems with rust in here and stuff, so always keep an eye on that too. Right up in there. Even you'd have to get a flashlight in here sometimes just to check this out. So there's I'm sure there's a little bit of Bondo in these doors, not a whole lot though. Like I said, when I got this car home, I did like a thorough check when I first showed up at the place, and so there's a spot up here too. So I'm guessing there was like might have been a rust hole here or something, but yeah, they didn't. I mean, the job they did looked. It probably looked good for a while at first, but yeah. Yeah, another spot here too, starting to bubble out. I'm hoping that doesn't go all the way through, but I don't know, we'll have to check her out eventually. Always look at these around these windows too, right? So we do have a little bit of rust in behind here, which is kind of concerning for me. The last couple days it's been raining here, and I didn't have a tarp on this car. So I just kind of laziness on my part, I didn't throw it on. I'll have to get it on there today. But I got to move this thing back, put it back in its storage area. So, but yeah, we got a little bit of bubbling around here starting to happen. This is really concerning for me. I might even just try and maybe put some oil on that just for now. I can't really pull the window out right at this point in time, so. Nor do I want to either, because I got no way of really resealing it properly, or I can't really afford to get into that right now, so. Okay, so under the hood here, this is where you can sometimes get a good grasp of how the rest of the car's gonna be, sort of. So you just want to look at everything under here. You know, check your try to check your firewall as much as you can. There's most of them kind of rust right up here too. That's just surface rust on there. It's nothing really to worry about. But every one I've seen has always got some rust up in there. This has got some little up in here a little bit too. Might have to get some oil on that or something, but for the most part it's in pretty good shape in here. Just make sure you always take a good look under the hood. You know, check the condition of the frame and stuff like that. Just try to get your eyeballs on everything in here. When I first got this car, it was, like I said, it was heavily undercoated, so there's undercoat all over everything, so I couldn't really look at anything that well. So I took it to the car wash and really blew a lot of this stuff off and degreased it and stuff like that. You can check your radiator support too. This one's in pretty good shape. It looks like it might have been, I don't know if it's original or it's been replaced at some point, but it's in really great shape actually. Still has a lot of the factory paint on here. Most of this car is original. It's had a few little pieces here and there missing. I took some of the smog stuff off. There's more I gotta take off yet, but I'm just gonna keep all that stuff in a box. But yeah, you can just check in here too of how your rad support is. A lot of the times too, if these things have never been undercoated, they'll rust right out. They're just like thin metal, right? So it'll either be up here, it'll be rusted, or the lower portion of these things will be rusted out, which is close to the side that's closer to the road, of course. I may have mentioned this before, but another thing you guys can check as well is have a look at your shock absorbers in the bumpers here. That'll be an indication whether or not this thing's been hit in the front. Sometimes not. They haven't been hit too hard, so you'll notice that these things are just there'll be some what do you want to call it? Like absorption scratches here from these impacting. So yeah, I mean, there is things I have to replace on this car and redo. Obviously, at some point this nose has been either off the car or been replaced. I'm not too sure, but I guess they couldn't find a replacement panel for this, so this one's been kind of half-assed butchered, and put back, or tried to pound it out and put it back together. I guess it just looks really gross. I mean, it looks like there's some fiberglass and whatever else in this thing. So I do have to get another panel for this eventually. It's not really a priority, but I want it to look nice. I want to replace this. So, but yeah, keep an eye on this stuff. I mean, just everything. You just take your eyeballs and take a good scan in here, and just make sure everything looks satisfactory. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but yeah, there's a little bit of rust on the radiator support there, but it's just nothing you can sandblast off, right? So this car's a non-AC car, thank God for that. Not a real big fan of AC cars. I mean, it is what it is, but I mean, don't really need more drag off the motor.